Did you have some trepidation before you met him then?
I had trepidation about getting too close to him and ending up discussing politics.
Right.
And I was afraid I'd get to like him, and that would be a problem.
Have you ever watched a movie and wondered what was really happening when the cameras weren't rolling? Like, what was going on behind all the perfect smiles and big Hollywood moments? Well, Angie Dickinson's latest news just cracked open a hidden chapter from the set of Rio Bravo, and it's way more surprising than anyone expected. We're talking about real behind-the-scenes stuff. What Ricky Nelson was actually like on set, what Angie saw when no one else was watching, and how one of Hollywood's most polished teen stars left a lasting mark on her. This isn't your typical "he was so talented" praise story. No, this goes deeper. Angie shared details that flipped the Ricky Nelson image on its head. She watched him up close, day after day, and saw something fans never did. He wasn't just that clean-cut kid with a guitar. He was a quiet force, a steady presence, and honestly, kind of the heartbeat of the whole production. And yeah, we're also getting into Ricky Nelson's scandal update, but not in the way you'd expect. This scandal isn't about drama. It's about how Ricky didn't act like every other Hollywood star in the 1950s. It shocked Angie then, and she still can't stop talking about it now. What did Ricky do that made such a deep impression? Why does Angie remember him more than some of the biggest names in the business? And how did one young actor completely change the vibe of a major Hollywood set? Stick around, because this is the story even classic movie fans never heard. You're about to find out what Angie Dickinson finally revealed, and trust me, it's got everyone rethinking what they thought they knew about Ricky Nelson. Back in 1958, Rio Bravo brought together a powerhouse cast. You had John Wayne, the biggest cowboy of them all, Dean Martin, the cool crooner, Walter Brennan, a Hollywood veteran, and then two wild cards, Angie Dickinson and Ricky Nelson, both fresh, both unproven, and both walking into a movie stacked with legends. Angie had just started breaking through in Hollywood. She wasn't famous yet, but this role could change that. And Ricky? He was already a star, but in music and television. People knew him from the adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, and from his chart-topping hits. But a serious Western film? That was new territory. Everyone was watching to see if these two newcomers could hold their own. And right away, something clicked between them. Not romance, not drama, just an instant connection, professional and personal. Angie saw something in Ricky that wasn't about fame or flash. He had this quiet, grounded energy. It made people feel calm around him, even guys like John Wayne. And that calm, it changed everything on set. While other stars had their egos, Ricky just did the work. No diva moments, no tantrums. In fact, Angie noticed that between takes, Ricky didn't disappear into his trailer. He hung around, practiced his lines, strummed his guitar softly to ease the tension, talked to the crew, made jokes that weren't for the camera but just to lighten the mood. Angie Dickinson wasn't just impressed, she was inspired. Ricky's behavior set the tone. The set, instead of being cold or intimidating, started to feel like a family. And she credited him for that. Not the director, not the veterans, but 18-year-old Ricky Nelson. Now, Angie's latest news makes something very clear. Ricky Nelson wasn't trying to win anyone over. He wasn't fake nice. He was the real deal. He treated everyone the same, whether it was John Wayne or a guy holding a boom mic. He didn't play the fame card. He didn't act like he was better than anyone. And that humility? It stayed with Angie long after the cameras stopped rolling. But let's get into Ricky Nelson's scandal update, because it flips the usual Hollywood script. This isn't a story about someone being difficult or out of control. It's the opposite. The scandal was that Ricky didn't act like a star at all. On a set where most young actors would be trying to impress, Ricky stayed quiet, observant, always learning. Angie remembered how he'd ask the stunt guys about their tricks, how he'd chat with lighting techs just to understand how they made certain scenes glow. He wanted to know everything, not just his lines, but how it all came together. That curiosity made him better, and it made everyone around him better, too. Angie Dickinson said the vibe on set shifted because of Ricky. People started relaxing more, joking more, opening up. Even Howard Hawks, the famously stern director, softened. Normally, he didn't tolerate anyone messing with the process, but when Ricky added his little touches, a wink here, a subtle smile there, Hawks let it slide. Because it worked. It made the film feel more alive. And here's something else Angie dropped in her latest news. Ricky was a natural at improvisation. He'd slip in small gestures or facial expressions that weren't scripted, but they worked. They made scenes feel human. One moment, he's goofing off with Dean Martin and Walter Brennan in a musical break. Next, he's adding emotional depth to a tense standoff. No one taught him that. It was just instinct. And that's when Angie knew. This guy wasn't just playing cowboy for a paycheck. He cared. He wanted to be great. He wanted the film to be great. So, while fans were busy watching Ricky Nelson perform on screen, Angie was watching something even more impressive behind it. She saw a young star take himself seriously without taking himself too seriously. She saw humility in a world full of egos. And she saw a rare kind of talent that didn't need to shout to be heard. But it wasn't just about acting. Angie and Ricky built a real friendship. Not the fake Hollywood kind. A real one. They talked about their fears, their hopes, how weird it was to be surrounded by movie legends. And somehow they made each other feel less alone. Between takes, they'd find quiet corners and just talk. Ricky would leave little notes for Angie, funny, encouraging, sweet. Not flirty, just kind. He had this gentle way of checking in that Angie never forgot. And while he never said it out loud, Angie knew Ricky felt the pressure. He was 18, surrounded by giants, trying to prove he wasn't just a teen idol with a lucky streak. And yet, he never showed it. He showed up. He listened. He got better. And he made everyone around him feel like they mattered. So here's the real scandal update. Ricky Nelson wasn't just nice behind the scenes. He was revolutionary. In a town where people were expected to be fake, loud, and self-important, he was authentic, quiet, and thoughtful. That's what shocked Angie Dickinson the most. And decades later, that's what she still remembers. Let's talk about reactions, because when Angie dropped this latest news, fans were floored. People expected juicy gossip, maybe a feud, a hidden romance, something messy. Instead, they got a deeper, more meaningful story. And honestly, that's even rarer. Comments started pouring in. Fans who grew up watching Ricky said they always sensed he was different. Gentle, real, and now they had confirmation. People who never gave him much credit before started rewatching Rio Bravo with fresh eyes. And younger fans? They were just straight up surprised. In a world where celebrity scandals usually mean wild behavior, hearing that the scandal was someone being too kind? That's wild in its own way. Some even said Ricky Nelson's attitude is what's missing from Hollywood today. Less ego, more respect. More curiosity. More kindness. Angie Dickinson didn't just paint a nice picture. She gave a masterclass in what it means to be a good person and a great actor. Now, let's get into a few fun facts Angie shared that didn't make the headlines, but definitely deserve attention. First, during filming, Ricky wrote a song inspired by his time on set, but never released it. He played it for Angie once between takes. She said it was soft, personal, and full of quiet emotion. He told her he didn't think it fit his image. Can you imagine the gold that's sitting in a vault somewhere? Also, Ricky once filled Angie's trailer with wildflowers after a tough filming day. Not as a romantic gesture, but just to cheer her up. No cameras, no press, just Ricky being Ricky. Another moment, Angie recalled that during a night shoot, Ricky stayed up just to help the crew strike down lighting. Not his job, not expected, but he said he just wanted to understand how it all worked. That's rare, then and now. Oh, and here's a fun one. Apparently, John Wayne tried to prank Ricky by swapping his coffee with hot sauce during a scene break. Ricky didn't flinch, just smiled and said, "That's some strong cowboy brew," and kept drinking. Even the Duke respected that. So now you know, Angie Dickinson's latest news isn't about drama, it's about depth. About seeing someone who didn't just act on screen, but lived with integrity off of it. Ricky Nelson's scandal update isn't a warning. It's a reminder that kindness in Hollywood, that's the real shocker. What do you think? Did this story change how you see Ricky Nelson? Were you expecting something totally different from Angie's big reveal? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Seriously, we want to hear your take. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell because more untold stories from old school Hollywood are coming your way. This one's going to stick with you, just like Ricky stuck with Angie.